Mark 3:14 is going to be my last thing I'm going to point to on why community, and basically why biblical community, we should be doing it, we should be living it out, we should be applying it, is because Jesus modeled it. Jesus is the greatest teacher, and we are to live our lives after him, and Jesus modeled this community. In chapter 3, verse 14, he says, "And he appointed 12, whom he also named apostles," this being Christ, "so that they might be with him, and he might send them out to preach." Okay? So that's that be with factor. We know that Jesus, when he called the disciples, he spent his life with them. He spent 3.5 years with his disciples. And he taught with them, he ate with them every day. He spent all this time, he invested his life into them so that they could go on and start the church. It says it right there, so that he might send them out to preach. So he had a purpose for what he was doing. He was being very missional, very purposeful, but he was spending and investing his life in the disciples. And that is what we are called to do, the same thing. We as leaders or servants of the church or ministers of the church are called to invest our life in fellow believers and disciples, and so that they can go out and become future disciplers and mature believers of the faith. So that's kind of like this idea, this is biblical evidence to build up why we should have community. The next thing I want to get into is relationship evidence. It's the next point there. Basically, we as humans and socially, we know, like, we need to be around other people. Like, there's this desire in us to be a part of something that's bigger than us. There's this desire to be a part of sports teams and clubs and to try to fit in with people, and you see that a lot of times that desire come out in high school years when you have identity problems or identity things. When you were a kid, you wanted to fit in, you wanted to be cool, and you see this built into us. And this is the desire that God has put in every one of us to be a part of the church, to be a part of a church family, to be a part of his family. And we see that desire, and it's just part of how God has designed us. And I know it can be applied, that man was designed to have peers. We were designed to have people that could hold us accountable, people that could lift us up, that could encourage us, that could breathe wisdom into us, and that could help us. And those peers help us better relate to God, help us have a better, more full relationship with God. So that can work out to be your spouse, that could work out to be your friends, that could be your family, that could become your church family. We just know that there is relationship evidence that God has designed for us to be together. And another place you find this in the Bible is in Ecclesiastes chapter 4. In Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 through 10, you see it said, "Two are better than one, because they have a good return for their work. If one falls down, his friend can help him up. But pity the man who falls and has no one to help him up." And then it goes on in verse 12 and says, "And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, two will withstand him. And threefold cord is not quickly broken." And it's this principle where when you're around people, they can keep you accountable, they can encourage you, they can help you, they can build into your life, and you can build into theirs. And there's this ministering that's taking place that allows us to be stronger than we would be if we were all separate. So even though if we split us up separately, we might be weak, but together we know that we are strong. And that's kind of how God has designed us, this relationship evidence for why we as Christians or as Christ followers, or even just people not even in the church yet, maybe you're just looking for a family or a church family and you want to know more about Christ, this is an opportunity for you guys to be invited in to an opportunity of community that is biblical and that we see evidence for also relationally.